He thought her silence meant defeat, but silence is not surrender. Silence is an execution without blood. In a world that feeds on validation, she walked away from the feast. While others screamed to be seen, she dissolved into stillness, and from that stillness, something ancient awoke. A kind of power that terrifies men and unsettles women who still need to be adored. It is the power of a woman who no longer negotiates with loneliness, but makes it her throne. There was a time she begged to be understood, when her voice cracked under the weight of male confusion and false promises. She gave softness like it was currency, hoping it would be returned as safety. It never was. It never is. Men admired her beauty, not her silence. They desired her light, not the darkness that shaped it. They took what spark they could, then called her cold when she refused to burn again. But something in her broke cleanly, like a mirror that finally stopped reflecting what did not belong to it. He feared her distance, not because it hurt him, but because it revealed him. In her absence, he saw himself stripped of fantasy. No longer a hero, no longer adored, just a man without power over a woman who does not need him. That is the male wound, the terror of insignificance. The trembling knowledge that control dies in the face of indifference. He would rather be hated than ignored, because hatred still feeds the ego, but silence starves it. She learned that lesson from pain, not philosophy. The female wound is older than history, the fear of being too much, too wild, too untamed to be loved. So she shrank for years, folded herself into smaller versions to fit into the narrow corridors of approval. Until one day, she stopped. She watched her reflection and saw not a woman but an artifact carved by other people's fears. So she burned that reflection. She stood alone among the ashes, and finally she was free. You have done it too, haven't you? Diminished yourself for someone's comfort. Spent nights deciphering silence that wasn't yours. You gave kindness to a man who mistook it for weakness. You thought love would make you worthy, but love given from hunger only attracts predators. You were not rejected because you were unworthy. You were rejected because your light blinded those who hadn't met their own shadow. The woman who chooses solitude is not lonely, she is dangerous. Her stillness is a test, and most fail it, because she listens not to words but to vibration. She sees not actions but motives. Her eyes are mirrors where illusions die. She no longer needs to explain herself to the blind. And when a man demands her softness, she gives him silence. When he demands her body, she gives him distance. When he demands her love, she gives him nothing. That nothing breaks him more than rejection ever could. In mythology, she was called the witch, the siren, the dark mother Medusa, each name a warning to men who feared the ungoverned feminine. They called her cursed because they could not dominate her. They called her lonely because they could not reach her. But she was neither cursed nor lonely. She was sovereign. Her solitude was not punishment, it was sanctuary. The air around her carried a cold grace, the scent of freedom mixed with danger. When he tries to provoke her, to make her feel small again, she doesn't react. His insults echo and fall dead in the space between them. He cannot touch her because she no longer participates in his story. His anger is a desperate prayer for relevance, but she gives him nothing. No emotion, no response, just stillness. That stillness is a mirror in which his ego disintegrates. Most men do not understand this kind of power. They mistake calmness for emptiness. They do not see the storm beneath the surface, the electricity humming behind her quiet eyes. But those who do see it, those who sense it, either bow in reverence or flee in terror. Because a woman who can walk away from everything cannot be controlled. And you listening now have that same potential buried beneath years of conditioning, beneath the need to be chosen, the compulsion to prove your worth. But there is another way. Tonight, sit in silence. Do not justify, do not explain. Let someone feel your absence like a funeral. Let them confront the void they created in themselves when they mistook your empathy for weakness. Do not speak. Do not chase. Watch how quickly those who claim to love you cannot stand the silence. When you stop performing, the false ones vanish. When you stop begging, the power returns. Not the kind that dominates others, but the kind that makes you untouchable. You no longer compete for love. You become the standard. The quiet terror of your indifference becomes a mirror for their dependency. And in that moment, you are no longer a woman. You are an archetype. This is the secret magnetism of women who choose solitude. It is not loneliness. It is selection. It is not withdrawal. It is ascension. And the woe, RLD, whether it admits it or not, revolves around those who no longer revolve around anyone. He thought her withdrawal was hesitation, but hesitation belongs to those still seeking permission. She no longer seeks, she decides. There is no tremor in her step now, only precision. He waits for softness to return, for the apology that once came so easily. It never comes. She has crossed into the realm where approval is irrelevant. The air there is thin, cold, and uninhabitable for the ordinary, but for her, it is home. Men speak of strength as conquest. They measure it in control, dominance, possession. But her strength is subtraction, the ruthless art of removal. She takes nothing by force, she simply stops giving. And that absence devours more than any attack could. Jung called it the withdrawal of projection, the moment when a woman stops living through the mirror of another's gaze. When the anima, once projected onto her, dissolves back into its owner, he sees himself naked, incomplete, ordinary. That realization is unbearable. He must either evolve or collapse. He usually collapses, not visibly, not dramatically, but inwardly where the illusions rot. The jokes become crueler, the eyes emptier, the hunger sharper. Because once a man has tasted the attention of a woman who sees through him, he can never return to the safety of lies. She exposes the hollowness of his power. Without her energy to feed on, he becomes the ghost of his own performance. You may think silence is weakness, that detachment is numbness, but detachment is the highest form of self-respect. It is the point where love no longer requires an audience. It is not that she does not feel, it is that she no longer needs her feelings to be witnessed. Most cannot comprehend this. They confuse reaction with aliveness, but reaction is dependence, and she is done depending. He will tell himself stories to survive her absence, that she was cold, that she was broken, that she will come back. He must believe that, or the structure of his identity will disintegrate, because every man secretly builds himself through the eyes of the woman who believed in him. When she looks away, the scaffolding collapses. That is the true punishment, not her silence, but his confrontation with the emptiness she once filled. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness screams. Solitude listens. Loneliness seeks distraction. Solitude sharpens perception. The woman who chooses solitude does not isolate from pain, she studies it. She dissects every illusion that once chained her. The desire to be loved unconditionally. The addiction to being understood. The belief that love and belonging are the same. She burns each falsehood with surgical calm, until only essence remains. You can feel that same process beginning in you. The discomfort is the fire. Every unanswered message, every ignored attempt to connect, it's not punishment, it's purification. The universe subtracts what does not match your frequency. The more you resist, the more it hurts. But when you stop resisting, something strange happens. You stop needing to be chosen. You start choosing. You start seeing the sacredness in absence, the elegance in withholding. That is the essence of the dark feminine. Not destruction for its own sake, but destruction as alchemy. When she withdraws, she is not abandoning love. She is transforming it into power. Every man she releases becomes another ghost orbiting her silence. Some return, humbled, seeking entry. Others vanish entirely. She mourns neither. He will try to provoke her again. He will remind her of the warmth she once gave, hoping to resurrect it through nostalgia. But nostalgia is a trap built by the wounded ego, a desperate attempt to return to a version of reality that no longer exists. She sees it for what it is, an illusion crafted by fear. She answers with nothing, not even a sigh. Stillness, that is her spell. The more he demands a reaction, the quieter she becomes. The quieter she becomes, the more his mask cracks, because noise is the refuge of the insecure. Silence is the weapon of the awakened. And you, when you finally stop explaining yourself, the world shifts. The people who never truly saw you will vanish. The ones who respected your silence will step closer, carefully, reverently. You will learn that attention is not validation, it is consumption, and those who cannot feed off your energy will accuse you of being distant. Let them. They are not meant to reach you anymore. This is how she transforms rejection into rain. She turns isolation into initiation. Her solitude is not a wound, it is a ritual, a cleansing of all that was false. She walks alone but not empty. Her footsteps echo with memory, wisdom, and the faint hum of vengeance disguised as serenity. She does not forgive easily, not because she hates, but because she remembers. Memory is her discipline. And one day, she no longer even remembers their names, only the sensa. Tian of detachment, clean and irreversible, the emotional corpse of what she once chased. There is no anger left, only clarity. That is when true magnetism begins, because what men call mystery is simply the absence of need. You were never meant to be understood. You were meant to be felt and feared. He thought time would erode her power. That solitude would soften her, make her ache for the comfort of his familiar chaos. But solitude does not weaken women like her. It refines them. It burns the excess, the sentiment, the compulsion to explain. Each day alone becomes an initiation into self-mastery. Each silence, a blade sharpened on the bone of what once hurt her. She no longer seeks witnesses. She has become her own. The dark feminine is not born through beauty or seduction. She is born through endings, through the quiet agony of seeing truth too clearly, through the collapse of the illusion that love must mean surrender. Jung called it individuation, the death of the false self that once begged for acceptance. When she withdraws into solitude, she is not hiding from the world. She is descending into the underworld to retrieve her shadow. There, beneath her composure, something ancient stirs. The witch who remembers her power, the siren who knows her voice can kill, the shadow queen who no longer kneels. These are not metaphors, they are psychic realities, archetypes buried in the collective unconscious, awakened only when pain becomes unbearable. When she rises again, she carries death in her stillness. Not the death of the body, but the death of delusion. Men feel it before they understand it. The air around her changes. Conversations falter, jokes fall flat. There is no entry point into her energy. She listens without offering warmth, observes without attachment. He senses the shift but cannot name it. What he once read as softness now feels like surveillance. His own insecurities echo back at him, amplified by her indifference. He starts to perform, to provoke, to reclaim control through noise. But control cannot exist where the other no longer reacts. He needs her empathy to feel significant. She has withdrawn it. He needs her emotion to feel alive. She offers only neutrality. He needs her validation to feel powerful. She looks at him as if he were air. That gaze is the true judgment, the gaze that sees without needing to touch. It dismantles him cell by cell, revealing the fragility of the masculine ego when stripped of feminine reflection. You have seen it too, haven't you? The panic in a man's eyes when his charm fails. The subtle hostility when you no longer laugh at his attempts to control the narrative. His ego cannot breathe in the vacuum of your detachment. And that suffocation, that is justice. You do not punish him. You simply cease to participate in his illusion. That is the cruelty of the evolved feminine. She does not destroy men. She lets them destroy themselves in the emptiness of her absence. When you master silence, you no longer chase closure. You become it. You no longer beg for understanding. You become the mirror in which others confront their lack of it. Every woman must pass through this shadow. To stand alone without turning to ice. To detach without becoming numb. To see clearly without becoming cynical. It is a narrow bridge between apathy and sovereignty, and only those who have died to their former selves can cross it. In that crossing, she learns a different language, not of words but of energy, the slight contraction in a man's posture when he senses her indifference, the unease in others when she refuses to fill silence with reassurance. They will call her intimidating, difficult, cold. They will try to make her apologize for the space she occupies, but she will not shrink again. Shrinking is a luxury of the naive. The world is terrified of women who no longer need its permission. Religion called them sinners. Culture called them bitter. Psychology called them avoidant, but they are none of these things. They are clear, and clarity has always been mistaken for cruelty by those who benefit from confusion. He returns one night, not with arrogance but with desperation. The same voice that once mocked her stillness now trembles with uncertainty. He wants warmth again, not because he values her, but because her absence has exposed his own emptiness. He speaks of change, of realization, of missing her energy. She watches him, not with hatred, not with love, just comprehension. She has seen this cycle too many times to believe in redemption bought through loneliness. He asks if she still feels something. She smiles slightly, a gesture colder than refusal. Feeling is not the same as returning. The woman who has met her solitude cannot unsee her own power. To return to dependence would be self-erasure, and she no longer dies for anyone. You must learn this too, to let the world misinterpret your silence, to let them call it arrogance when it is simply self-containment. Power does not announce itself. It breathes quietly like a predator in the dark. You do not need to prove your strength. You only need to stop leaking it through explanation. Tonight, practice this. Sit alone. Let the quiet become a mirror. Notice how your mind demands distraction, how your body aches to be witnessed. Do not obey. Let the ache consume itself. You are not starving. You are purifying. Every moment spent in solitude is another layer of weakness burned away. And when dawn comes, you will feel different. Not softer, not happier, but sovereign. The world will sense it even before you speak. They will feel the shift and wonder when you became so untouchable. But you will know. You simply stopped being available to those who confused access with worth. He thought she was testing him, that her silence was a game, a manipulation meant to provoke attention. Men always assume the feminine withholds to be chaste. They cannot comprehend a woman who withholds because she has transcended desire itself. To them, absence is strategy. To her, it is peace. She is no longer performing love. She is embodying detachment. There is no script to win her back, no charm that can pierce the armor she forged from her own suffering. Her solitude has become sacred. Not a wound, but a temple. Every echo within it teaches her something about power. That to be unseen is not to be diminished. That to be misunderstood is not to be lesser. The ones who once dismissed her now circle from a distance, sensing the danger of her calm. They mistake her stillness for emptiness, but emptiness is her weapon. It absorbs everything. Every insult, every projection, every attempt to define her, swallowed whole, digested into silence. There is a particular cruelty in indifference, not the cruelty of revenge, but of elevation. He cannot hurt what no longer feels attachment. His words fall flat against the walls of her composure. His anger, once her leash, now embarrasses him. It is the spectacle of a boy raging at a mirror. He sees himself reflected back in her unflinching eyes, small, predictable, desperate. You have seen that look before, the shift from arrogance to confusion. The moment they realize your attention was the air they breathed. You did not destroy them. You simply left them without oxygen. That is the essence of power, not domination, but withdrawal. You remove your energy and the false crumble under their own emptiness. You become a quiet reckoning. Jung wrote that what we reject in others is what we refuse to face in ourselves. The men who call her cold are terrified of their own emotional void. They project their hunger onto her, then call her cruel for not feeding it. But she is not their mother, nor their muse, nor their mirror. She is the shadow they tried to avoid meeting, the one who forces them to confront the parts of themselves they buried beneath arrogance. The feminine wound begins with rejection, the child who learns that love must be earned, the woman who learns that value depends on being needed, but she breaks that cycle. She lets the wound speak until it burns itself out. There is no begging left in her voice, no sweetness forced through gritted teeth. Her silence becomes her sermon, her detachment, her gospel. He comes again, this time pretending indifference, the old performance of masculine control. He speaks with casual disinterest, but his eyes betray panic. She listens without interruption. He waits for softness, a sign that the door is open. It never comes. The more he talks, the smaller he becomes in her gaze. His words lose their weight against her calm. Her silence strips him naked, not of clothes, but of illusions. He will remember this silence for years. It will echo in his new relationships, in every woman who doesn't laugh at his charm, in every moment when attention is withheld. Her absence will follow him like a ghost, a reminder of the power he could not comprehend. He will tell himself she was heartless, but heartlessness and discernment are not the same. She does not lack emotion. She has mastered its direction. You must learn this mastery too. Do not waste words where silence cuts deeper. Do not explain where distance speaks clearer. The world conditions you to respond, to defend, to justify, to plead for understanding. But understanding is not owed. When you stop seeking it, clarity arrives on its own. Those who are meant to understand will meet you in stillness. The rest will drown in their noise. There is beauty in withholding, in allowing mystery to return to the feminine. The modern world demands transparency, demands access, but power is found in opacity. The less they know, the more they wonder. The more they wonder, the more they project. And those projections reveal who they are, not who you are. That is how you reclaim authority over your narrative, by refusing to provide one. He will eventually call her dangerous. He will whisper warnings to others, cloak his humility in concern. But what he truly means is this: she could not be controlled. And in a world built on control, that is the greatest sin a woman can commit. To be untouched, to be unbothered, to be self-sustaining. In myth, such women were never celebrated. They were hunted, burned, banished. Because a woman who does not need validation destabilizes the entire structure of power. She mirrors the truth no one wants to face. That dependence is the root of corruption. She is not rebelling against love. She is rebelling against possession. And you, when you stop being afraid of solitude, you inherit her strength. You begin to walk differently, speak less, move slower. People feel it before they understand it. They call it confidence, but it's something colder. It's detachment laced with sovereignty. The kind of presence that bends the room without effort. Let them misunderstand you. Let them call you distant. Every misinterpretation is a filter removing the unworthy. Silence is your ally now. Absence is your proof of power. And when they finally realize what they lost, it will be too late. Because the woman who finds peace in solitude never returns for validation. She does not chase. She does not explain. She does not repeat herself. She simply continues forward, quiet, unshakable, divine. He once believed he could outweight her. That time, that old deceiver would soften her resolve. But time does not soften a woman who has met herself. It tempers her like steel submerged in flame. Her solitude became not a phase but an evolution. While he sought distractions, she sought truth. While he drowned in noise, she learned the language of silence. By the time he looked back, she was no longer someone to return to. She was something to worship from a distance. She had become the mirror of his unhealed self. Every woman he touched after her was compared to a ghost, though he never admitted it aloud. He missed not her affection, but the reflection of his importance in her eyes. Yet that reflection is gone. She has withdrawn her projection too. Jung said that when the anima reclaims her energy, the man must face his emptiness unaided. It is the beginning of his despair and her liberation. The solitude she inhabits is not loneliness. It is ascension through renunciation. She moves like someone who has seen the other side of attachment and returned untouched. Her laughter, when it comes, is no longer a lure. It is a fracture in eternity, brief, beautiful, and unreachable. He studies her in silence, unable to decide if she is human or divine. But divinity has always looked like distance to those who cannot bear to be alone. The feminine that once pleaded now observes. The once reactive heart now calculates. She does not manipulate, she orchestrates through withdrawal. The less she engages, the more his ego unravels. He begins to doubt his worth, his relevance, his charm. What he thought was dominance was dependency all along. The truth dawns slowly, cruelly. He needed her belief to exist. Without it, he is undefined. And you, yes, you listening, you have been taught to fear this form of power, to fear being misunderstood, being called distant, being alone. But solitude is the crucible of the authentic self. In solitude, masks melt, addictions crumble, illusions bleed out. You see who you were when you still needed to be seen. You see how many times you begged to be chosen by people unworthy of your surrender. You see the pattern, and for the first time, you stop running from it. That is when the dark feminine awakens fully, not as vengeance, but as clarity. She does not chase what flees. She does not mourn what dies. She allows entropy to do its work, knowing that decay is merely transformation wearing a darker face. She does not curse him for failing to meet her depth. She simply understands that most cannot breathe where there is no validation to feed on. He might return once more, not out of love but nostalgia, the comfort of familiarity masquerading as devotion. He will speak of regret, of realization. He will perform accountability as an offering, but she has no altar left. There is nothing to offer because she no longer trades energy for attention. The currency of her affection has changed. It cannot be bought with apology. It demands transformation, and he will not pay that price. She lets him speak until his words crumble beneath their own weight. Then silence. Again, that silence. It fills the room like smoke, curling around him until he cannot breathe. He realizes then that the conversation ended before it began, because communication requires two participants, and she has withdrawn from the stage entirely. He is talking to a phantom of his own making. Do you understand this power? The ability to kill illusions without raising your voice, to end battles without drawing blood, to reject not through anger but through indifference. That is the quiet brutality of sovereignty, and it terrifies those who depend on. Reaction to feel alive. Every woman must come to this threshold, the moment where she chooses between being understood and being free. One path keeps her soft but enslaved. The other makes her feared but untouchable. Most choose softness, for it keeps them surrounded. But those who choose solitude, they become myth. They stop existing in the eyes of men and begin existing in the language of archetypes. She becomes the witch who walks without fear of exile, the siren whose silence deafens, the Medusa whose gaze petrifies deceit. But these figures are not monsters. They are liberated souls misnamed by frightened men. Their power lies not in destruction, but in refusal, to submit, to justify, to return. He will carry her in his psyche for years, never realizing she has become part of his shadow. Every woman who follows will compete with her ghost, yet none will match her presence. Because presence is not beauty, it is absence without apology. And you, if you wish to embody this energy, stop performing care for those who have proven careless. Stop explaining your silence to those who broke it. Withdraw not in bitterness, but in clarity. Let absence become your language and watch who remains when there is nothing left to take. Because the woman who can be alone cannot be used. The woman who no longer craves belonging becomes the axis of her own universe. And the world, whether it admits it or not, orbits her gravity in quiet awe. The man will call her a mystery. The weak will call her cold, the wise will call her free, but she calls herself nothing at all. Names are for those still seeking recognition. She has transcended the need for one. And when the world finally looks for her again, she will already be gone. Not vanished, but ascended beyond reach, existing only in silence where power has no opposite. The woman who knows her worth does not argue, she vanishes.